Growing Your Business into a Money Tree, Video 4, Dealing with the Unknown. Welcome to Video 4, Dealing with the Unknown. At one time or another, most of us have looked for answers by trying to find out what other people have that we don't. We see individuals achieving a measure of business success, and we want to know how they are doing it. We want to discover their secrets. Perhaps as part of your search for answers, you have attended a seminar by Anthony Robbins and maybe even purchased his tape series, or perhaps you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. What you probably have already discovered that while both Robbins and Kiyosaki have many brilliant insights, you only feel empowered for a while. Within a week or so, you find yourself back into the same old grind. It would be wonderful if you could take those gurus home and pull them out of your pocket when you needed to close a sale or train an employee. They certainly make it seem easy. However, the truth is that all you have in your pocket is you. Your strength must come from within as you strive for a better life through your own small business. One of the great advantages of owning a business is that you get to be king or queen of your own world. One of the costs is that the answers must come from you. By all means, go to seminars, read books from the masters, and gain all the knowledge you can for your entire life. However, those sources of information can only guide you to certain places. It is up to you to make it work. You have to find your own answers. Let's begin that search by taking a look at your circle of knowledge that includes the following three components. 1, things that you know that you know. 2, things that you know you need to know. And 3, things that you don't know that you need to know. If you drew a circle that represented your knowledge and divided it into the three components, what part do you think would be the largest? By far, the largest part would be made up of things that you don't know that you need to know. If you accept the notion that there is always more that you need to learn, your quest to be more successful in business becomes a learning exercise and not just a sum total of your experiences to date. This belief that your life in business is a learning experience will help you manage your own emotions and expectations. It will open up a whole new world where you admit that you don't know it all, but are willing to acquire as much knowledge as you can. All of this will make a big difference in your approach to finding your own answers to small business success. Searching for your own answers is easier said than done. Many of you will find that the great obstacle you face is you. I want to help you get around that obstacle by discussing the emotion involved that may block your progress. Many years ago, my father, who was a lifetime salesperson, taught me that what works in sales is to initiate the greed and fill the need. Even though I don't like to sell that way, the truth is that it works with many prospects. Nothing gets in the way of good sound judgment like the emotion of greed. Why does the emotion of greed work so well in so many sales situations? The answer is people want something so badly they ignore the risk involved. Therefore, many assume that whatever is promised is going to happen for certain. In other words, they believe they are guaranteed success. Of course, it is better to know what is going to work versus not knowing. Isn't that what preparation is all about? We learn all we can about a particular subject and then apply it in a way where results are predictable. At least that is what we are hoping. It is a pleasant thought that our actions would lead to predictable results. We would then know exactly what to do. It is kind of like what business planning is all about. A business plan represents a plan of actions that, if carried out, will achieve certain results. It is an attempt to predict the future. I do believe business planning has its value, and I do teach you how to prepare a one-page business plan in my course on starting a new business. You will also receive my guide, Business Planning Made Simple, as a bonus gift when you purchase my book. That way, you can see what a simple business plan looks like. You need to keep it simple. Otherwise, a business plan will just be a bunch of paper you stick in a drawer and never look at again. It won't be a working document. Keep in mind that some of the most effective business plans ever written were done so on the back of a napkin. Those plans were just a point in a certain direction and not an attempt to predict the future. The major difference between a 30 to 50 page business plan and one written on the back of a napkin is the difference between dealing with what appears to be the known versus willing to venture out into the unknown. If you accept the idea that the largest part of your circle of knowledge is made up of things that you don't know that you need to know, then you should be able to accept that most of your learning will take place when you venture out into the unknown. People who are naturally successful in business have it in their character to venture out into the unknown and learn from the experience. I am all for planning, thinking, and strategizing. I am even willing to shine out my crystal ball so I can predict the future. However, deep in my heart, when it comes to crunch time, I know that I just have to go out and see what works. There's a lot to be said about the feeling of damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. I often see an example of this point when it comes to advertising. In the old days, I would show a client an advertisement that was going to run. The question they would often ask was, how do you know it's going to work? Well, I don't know. The truth is you don't know what is going to work, so you have to experiment. This willingness to experiment would also prepare you to make adjustments along the way. When you find something that works, you can tinker with it until it works better. Discovering what works in advertising is something you know that you need to know. Let's venture out into the area of not knowing what you need to know, because that is where incremental growth takes place. Most of us have heard the expression that business is just a numbers game. As a matter of fact, it is one of the truisms of what works in advertising. It is a numbers game. Most of us understand that expression from a logical standpoint. It makes sense that only a small percentage of people will respond to advertising, and you have to work those numbers. However, you need to understand that expression on an emotional level. The deeper your emotional understanding of that expression is, the more successful you will be. For many people, that emotional understanding is a barrier. Getting through that obstacle is not something you can figure out logically. It is something you need to experience emotionally. Doing so requires you to venture out into unknown territory. In this case, that unknown territory is called rejection. Many of you are now shaking your heads thinking that you know about that territory all too well. The truth is that most of you don't really know it, and you only think that you do. What you do know is that you don't like it. What you don't know is that it really doesn't matter how many times you are rejected. The only thing that matters is how many times you are accepted. Let's use the known that you don't like rejection to learn about the unknown that it really doesn't matter. The high failure rate in business occurs in the first 2 years. That is when 50% of businesses fail. If you are building a business in the traditional way, in other words, not an internet-based business, by far the most important skill that you need to get past those first 2 years is the personal ability to sell. If you don't have that natural ability already, the only way you can acquire it is to be willing to go out and learn, which takes practice and experimentation. You need to venture out into the unknown. Most of the time, a business is started without an established customer base. You may have some people that will buy from you right away, but generally it is not enough to sustain the business very long. Therefore, to get past that first year, you have to go out and develop new contacts and find people who will do business with you. I have coached many small business owners through this period, and it can be a difficult time. The person who is being coached often complains that there has to be a better way. They are right. There is a better way. You should already have an established customer base, work with that base to make it larger by doing more work for those existing customers, and then get referrals from them. However, the problem is that you don't have a customer base, and how to get one is the big question. You have to meet new people. If you don't know it already, what you will find out very quickly is that you are going to be rejected quite often, and no matter what you think now, rejection hurts. You soon realize that you are not nearly as special as you thought you were. That is a dose of reality, and it is one reason facing rejection is difficult. Let's use what we do know to learn how to deal with what we don't know and get you through the initial 2 years. The first step in developing a customer base is to meet people that are interested in buying what you are selling. What you need to do is generate leads. You can spend anywhere from a little money to a lot in order to generate those leads. Your choices will be discussed in the videos on selling and marketing. For now, let's pick the least expensive and most difficult method of generating leads. This method is cold calling. As I say this, I can feel many of you squirm in your seat. Why? Because that is exactly the way I feel. I don't like the thought of cold calling either. When we examine that emotion, we must admit that the idea does not appeal to us because we know that cold calling involves the reality of rejection. Therefore, getting rejection is a known element of cold calling. Let's use this knowledge. The following is an actual example used with a client. During a coaching session, we set a goal for my client to be rejected 200 times in the next month. Therefore, every time he was rejected, it was actually a successful call. This helped him get through cold calling and learn a great deal by doing so. What did he learn? He realized that being rejected really didn't hurt as much as he thought, and it certainly didn't stay with him very long. He also learned that being rejected had very little to do with him. How he was treated had everything to do with the person he was calling. After all, that person didn't even know him. He found that some people were approachable and some were not. Some would hang up on him, and a few would even yell at him not to ever call again. He learned that he would often not get through to the person he needed to reach, and that getting the gatekeeper to cooperate was a big help. However, he was able to get through to many decision makers. Some used his product already, and others needed it, even if they didn't realize it. He learned that some people did business with his competitors, and many were not about to change. He even found out about his competition by asking what they liked about their current supplier. He did find individuals who weren't happy with his competitors, and they would consider doing business with him. Some didn't need his product right then, so he made a note to follow up in a month. He also found people who had been thinking about using his product, but were not sure of the benefits, so he spent time educating them. He even found individuals who had a current need for his product, and his timing was perfect. He made a few sales. My client was successful reaching his goal of 200 rejections, and he learned so much at the same time. He realized that within a few months, he would only be calling people that had already spoken with him on the telephone. His period of pure cold calling would only last a short while. Let's relate this example of cold calling back to the circle of knowledge. By making those calls, my client learned how to play the numbers game on an emotional level by realizing that rejection was really not as bad as he had thought. He found that being rejected was the means to achieve his objective. This is something he didn't know he needed to know. Learning to cope with rejection on an emotional level is an important key to your business success. You can spend 5 years in psychotherapy trying to overcome your fears of cold calling, or you can venture out into the unknown and actually get rejected. Doing so will teach you that it is really no big deal, and you will find acceptance if you are willing to face rejection. Please believe me that the fear of rejection stops many more people than actual rejection. This is just one example of dealing with the unknown. I am speaking about rejection as it relates to selling, since it is so critical to achieving your goals. You can apply the same kind of thinking to managing employees, vendors, and landlords. There is much to learn if you are willing to venture into unknown territory. People who are successful in their own business are good at dealing with the unknown. They actually find it a very stimulating place to be. Most people who go into their own business don't start out as naturals. It is something we learn the hard way, and that was by making mistakes. Making mistakes costs time and money, and I am offering you the skills to save you both. Once you learn the 10 character traits common to naturally successful business owners, you will have the information to become a natural yourself. That is when business becomes fun and very profitable. I hope you are excited by the information you have learned in these first 4 videos. However, none of what you heard so far matters if you can't put to work what you are about to learn in video 5. You just have no place to go if you can't get people to buy your products or services. See you next time. Thanks.